Welcome to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
Always a pleasure to host with you.
It is a pleasure to host with you, man. It's good to be here with you again.
Likewise, it's going to be a great show.
Yes, well, matter of fact, let me tell you, I believe that Real People, Real Voices is always a great show. Everywhere I go in the community, there are people who always acknowledge the fact that they enjoy watching the show. And I hope that this show will be here for quite some time for people to continue to enjoy it.
Yeah, Friday nights and on Sunday afternoon.
Yes, Sunday afternoon, and people are watching it and letting other people know about it. We're doing our best to bring about good information.
Yeah.
Some information might not be so pleasing in to someone's ear, but you got to bring the bitter with the sweet.
The whole truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I want to thank God for our sponsors.
Lee Crossover and Crowley, who's been with us for some time. We thank you. Who has one of the greatest lawyers over there.
Super lawyer.
Super lawyer every year for the last, I think, 10 or 12 years. Mm-hmm. Nathaniel Lee is at it, and he's doing it. He has a great staff there with him, along with his daughter, Jenny. They're doing a great job.
And Fervent Care Child Care and Christian Academy. If you need clean, Christian, and convenient child care, give them a call at 317-898-2751.
And Marion County Public Health Department, doing a lot of great work in our city and around Marion County. If you need them for anything, they have a information system there that can move you anywhere through Marion County Health to get what you need done.
And please be sure to go to YouTube and find the show there. You can watch this show again and other shows you might have missed. And like us on Facebook.
Like us, I love it when you say that. Like us on Facebook. We want to be liked on Facebook.
Absolutely.
Because we want to be positive.
Yeah. So we got a lot to share with you today. I think you're going to really enjoy what we have coming up. Stay with us. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices. We have wonderful guests here, Lakeisha Lorraine.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
And Tiffany.
Good.
Hello.
Good to have you all here.
Wolfhawk.
You got it.
I got it. I
Yes.
want to make sure we know who you are. Two young movie stars. How's that?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So you all have a film premiere coming up.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so 5 Hours to Georgia. It's an independent feature film produced by Love and Life Productions, LLC, and the film actually premieres January 4th at 7 p.m. at Georgetown Cinemas. So we're really excited about this film.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've heard the terminology loving to life in other contexts, but this production company, is this your production company?
Yes.
So what precipitated starting it?
I definitely wanted to start it because I wanted to create faith-based content that was relatable for people even outside of the Christian faith, that had really, really good storytelling, really good acting, but also really good evangelical pieces that would, leave people could leave with that out into their homes and get to know who God is and who Christ is.
Okay. So no spoilers, but what are we going to see in this movie? What's it all about?
Well, the film is about family relationships, spiritual wellness, and mental health. And it's about sisters taking a journey together, but then also sharing some old family history, self-discovery, and the idea that it's okay to not be okay.
And we talk about mental health. Certainly, that's a big deal
Yes.
in America, but right here in Indiana, as we understand it, Dr. Moore, 1 in 4 people have some mental health
Issues going on.
and we had a show on that a couple of years ago. So this film will be speaking to that.
Yes.
What are some of the solutions that we can expect to see in the film with regard to mental health without giving it away?
What we address in this film, it was really important in the writing process is, Tiffany wrote it and we met together to talk about different concepts and characters, was the relation between spirituality and medical and clinical help. they've been living on separate islands for so long, especially within the Black community.
Yes.
So that is something that we're addressing in this film, how you can love Jesus and go to therapy, right? That is okay.
Right.
You know, that doesn't mean you're crazy. That doesn't mean
Used to
that
be
something's
taboo.
wrong. It used to be it's still in a lot of households.
Socially taboo.
Right.
Very taboo. So, especially when it actually hits your household, right? We hear it a lot, and then when it actually hits your household, sometimes people are like, no, you don't need to do that. But some people really do need that help, and it's okay.
Definitely.
I think the idea of mental health as it relates to the kingdom of God, could I say it that way?
Yes.
Most of the time we just tell people to pray about a situation.
Definitely.
I do, and I'm a strong believer that prayer works, but I also think that God has placed people here as tools
Yes.
to help us make those transitions from those places of despair to a place of peace and comfort. We can find that. And I think both of them work hand in hand with one another, especially if you are pastoring. You can see that that does work hand in hand. That's a very unique way to approach it, because most people they only think that prayer can fix it, and it can, but sometimes prayer will lead you to therapy.
Amen. Yeah.
Amen to that. Yes.
So
Definitely.
you all are breaking barriers with this film.
Yeah.
One of the things that you talk about is support systems.
Yeah.
And this film will be dealing with support systems. Say more about that.
Well, it's important that the main character of our movie, Gigi, that she has her grandmother that is very supportive, and she has sisters that tried to be a help to her as well. But then having the idea that family is there to support you and help you along this journey, but having people who are going to, not even if they're family or not family, but people who are going to be there to lean on, be there to provide comfort and encouragement, and to stand by you no matter what.
All right. And when is the film premiering again?
The film is premiering January 4th at Georgetown Cinemas. You can get tickets at lovinglifeproductions.com. Visit Loving Life Productions LLC on all social media platforms. And we're selling tickets now, so it's looking like towards the end of the year we'll be sold out. So get your tickets, get your tickets, get your
Yes.
tickets.
And where can people buy those tickets?
lovinglifeproductions.com. You can get your tickets for 5 hours to Georgia.
5 hours to Georgia.
5 hours. A lot going on in that car, isn't it?
It's a lot in that car.
There's a lot going on in that car.
You know, in our culture, we usually rent vans. Do y'all have a van in this particular situation?
No vans this film.
Yeah, everybody gets in the van, family piles in the van,
Right.
and goes 5 hours to Georgia.
Right.
So, you got, how many's gonna be in the vehicle?
There will be, there's 4.
Yeah, you should have rented a van.
All the best to the show.
All the best to your show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We have much more to come after this. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices, and we're joined by sociologist Isabel Hunt.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for being here. So one of the things that you do well and is very, very much of an interest for you is cultural transformation.
Yes.
Say more about that.
Well, I'm originally from Germany. I moved to the U.S. about 10, 11 years ago. And I went through a really big identity crisis moving here. It was just really a struggle to figure out how I fit into a different culture. But the more I started to find my way, I realized that I was able to look at things from almost like a bird's eye view, and that I was able to see the world in a different light because I have like a spiritual gift where I see everything in color. Or it's called synesthesia from a medical perspective. So everything that I see is color. And so I'm like, okay, what's going on? How am I supposed to use that? And that's when I realized, okay, there's some cultural things that are coming up, that the social challenges that we experience from different cultures and ethnicities where we forget the individual, where we forget to be curious with each other, and how can we promote more of that curiosity, the transformation. And that's how I also got into the field of emotions, the psychology and the spiritual side of it behind it, and realized that my gift is actually very much related to emotional awareness, because every color is on a similar frequency as a specific emotion. So what I was picking up from people was their emotional state. And so I didn't see what was going on the outside, but more so what was going on the inside. And I realized how much we have forgotten to just be with people, to feel with people without taking it on yourself or trying to fix something or trying to make things right, but just being with them and really seeing them on a soul level.
That is, Isabella, risky business.
Yes.
To be able to take on someone else's emotions and make sure that yours stay intact as you help them.
Yes.
And not become too attached to their emotions, because you still have to manage yours.
Yes.
And so that's risky, very risky. But it seems like you're being pretty successful with it, because you have a new book out, some new information out.
Yes, not a book, a documentary.
Documentary, yes.
We're working on a documentary.
Yeah, how's it coming?
It's going incredibly well. A couple weeks ago, I had this idea, shared it with my husband, and literally I turned around and just moved on by itself. Like, what's happening? I said, okay, why can I not do something bigger with the work that I already do? Because it's so simple, just to sit with people and just to listen. We don't even have to take on someone's emotion. We just have to acknowledge what they're going through. Like, hey, this is your experience. I acknowledge that. What do you need? That's the main question. And so my husband suddenly turns around and he's like, well, why don't you turn that in a documentary based on a specific exercise that I do with people when I speak? And like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that. So immediately, most of my information that I receive come through dreams. And I'm like, the power of connection, that's exactly it. Shattering cultural barriers that we have created through labels, through boxes, through beliefs, through assumptions and prejudice, and breaking those down by becoming more honest with ourselves. Where are we emotionally, and some of the thoughts that we have about ourselves, and how is that related to other people? And so it just came around like, okay, $100K budget, how are we going to do that to create a real good documentary? And suddenly people just came into my life and said, hey, I want to be part of this. I want to do this. And I'm like, whoa, that just went fast. So we just finished up the trailer, and hopefully we get some more sponsors on board to finish up the entire project by March.
I think you will. I mean, cultural transformation on a lot of different levels, of course, from the perspective of you coming to the States,
Yes.
and that change and that shock. But then there's a lot of other things as our communities are changing with
Yeah.
different ethnicities, folks from different countries, and everybody, especially in Marion County and some of the other counties who may be watching throughout Indiana, but trying to figure out how to live with other people. What do you think impedes that process most of all?
Well, for one, we have to take responsibility for our own way of thinking. A story that I'm going to share in the documentary as well. When I came to the U.S. for the first time, I was 18, so that's been a few years, 20 almost. But I didn't speak English very well. I just came, but eventually I met this really cool guy. He was awesome. We met at a club, and I was all excited. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, I think I met this really cool guy. He asked me out on a date. He's like, oh yeah. And so I told her, it's like, well, he's black. And she's like, oh, okay, that's cool, but are you sure you want to do that? Mm-hmm. Because all we know that I grew up with is the movies about the black community, gangsters. They're all gangsters and criminals and are uneducated.
In Germany, that's what the message was.
That's pretty much what people perceive about that community. And so that came with me. I had this imprinted into my brain, those thoughts. I'm like, but I really like him. But I had this fear. I had those thoughts, the prejudice, the assumptions in my head. What if? And we still went out on a date, but it was really profound, because looking back, I made sure that I was safe instead of being safe, knowing that I'm safe internally and being able to connect with him without that fear that's coming from the outside. So I had a friend shadowing us the whole time. I'm not proud of this. And he still doesn't really know about it. You might hear about it now after 20 years. But it just helped me to realize how much we create that disconnection just from pre-programmed.
And it's by design.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is, exactly.
It's by
It's the
design.
social construct that helps to keep authoritarian power in place.
So we have these meta-narratives all over the place.
Yes.
And what your goal and mission is to change that.
Yes.
So what's the first step? You talk about self-responsibility, self-reflection. Is that the same as introspection?
Yes.
And what is it that precludes people from really taking a good look, walking around inside themselves and making these discoveries?
Well, we talk a lot about self-awareness nowadays, right? Everyone is talking about it, mindfulness. But what I want to do with the documentary is help people understand what's really going on in your subconscious. What are the thoughts that come up? What are you really afraid of? Because what it really is, what it comes down to is not feeling safe because we were told we're not safe subconsciously, but also about losing our identity. When I first came to the US, I was like, oh yeah, you Americans, we Germans do it better, or we are better. I was trying to feel better about myself by diminishing someone else's experience, and I wasn't aware because I didn't know
Which is
about
a
it until
trained
someone told me.
behavior.
Exactly.
It's a trained behavior.
And once someone told me what was going on, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't notice that. And I really want people to feel it, like what's going on, the fear that we're not even aware of behind the disconnect. And starting the conversations in particular, especially with younger generations, like, hey, this is what's going on. If you watch children play, we live in a very diverse neighborhood on the east side. They just play, they don't care. And then they hear something on TV from their parents and suddenly they distance themselves. I can't play with you anymore. And it continues. And I think what I want to do is, okay, so what do you really feel? Anger. Anger is about boundaries. What is the actual message behind anger? Not just, I feel angry, so, and that's it, right? But acknowledging, okay, hey, someone crossed my boundaries. What do I have to notice about myself? Or even fear. Fear is nothing bad. If you acknowledge it, it's like, oh, where am I not trusting myself? Where am I not trusting in the divine or in God? And whatever people want to call it, right? It's that level of trust that we can choose. I can choose to trust you even though I don't really know you.
Yeah.
But I can take responsibility for that. And conveying the message of what we feel and then really putting a message behind that. Like, that's nothing bad about anger. You just don't have to respond to that. But understand what's going on inside of you and why you respond to that person the way you do.
We'll be looking forward to the documentary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for so much. It's wonderful sharing so much wonderful stuff with us.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices, which is a very special segment.
Right.
We usually have the rundown.
Yeah.
But we just had 2 segments dealing with emotional health and mental health.
Yeah, which is very important for our communities to understand that there are people in our communities right now who are suffering from mental health.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that are going on to try to make people very much aware of it and to break down the walls of silence.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can, this show, Real People, Real Voices, will be used as a vehicle to make sure that we can get some of that done. My wife said on one occasion, I don't know, but she said this, she says, all of us at one time or another in our life have experienced some element of mental health.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, Dr. Moore, during the mayoral elections,
Yes.
in Indianapolis, the Concerned Clergy and the Baptist Minister Alliance, 2 very good organizations, held forums
Yeah.
on what was called a Black Agenda.
Right.
And both mayoral candidates were sharing their plans and what they hope to do. One of the things I thought is important with regard to what Isabel Hunt was saying
Right.
is the value and the importance of listening to what the people have to say.
So you can connect.
and make the transformation.
and make the transformation. I
And sometimes that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen, I think after those agendas that we went through, there still is a disconnect. Anybody that has sat there and listened at those agendas, there's still a disconnect. And most people feel that there is no black agenda, and some people already feel that it already exists. Well, it does not exist to me when I can go to blighted areas and see that those areas are remaining blighted. I can go down to downtown, our Mecca, and see great things happening. So there's a total imbalance in our city as it relates to trying to get people to understand that there needs to be agenda for all people. But you got to understand, you got to make sure that that agenda is seen by all people, and all people can feel and be a part of that agenda. That's not happening right now. I don't feel it is. Others might, but I don't feel it's happening right now.
And I get a sense that a lot of what's happening with regard to what happens in the black community or the Latinx folks and the community at large,
Right.
that only a few people get input.
Right.
And then that's delivered to everybody else. I think it used to be organizations like the NAACP, the Concerned Clergy, the 100 Black Men, and the BMA and other organizations were all brought together
Right.
for input
Right.
before something was rolled out.
Yeah, but you live in a time now to where there are just some organizational leaders that are not going to be handled. And what I mean by handled is that you just give them an agenda and they say, yes, sir, this is what we're going to go with. And then there are other leaders that are in those particular meetings that will say, I see your agenda, but this does not exist in the agenda. This does not exist in the agenda. What can we do to get this to exist in the agenda? And if you go against the current agenda, you become branded or labeled because you didn't agree with the present agenda, because you want to see some things added to the agenda.
Yeah, and I think that circles back to what our guests talked about, the discovery, and I
Right.
think people have to do some introspection.
Yeah, introspection, yeah.
Am I listening?
Yeah. Am I listening?
Am I trying to make sure that I'm connecting with everybody in the community?
Yeah. It doesn't do any good in this community to spend hundreds of $millions for a 14 to 15 mile radius and not spend $5 to $10 million outside of that radius. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So we wanted to really share with you some very, very important things, because we had our guest on to talk about emotional health, to talk about mental health, and how important it is to you, and how important it is to us. And that's why we do this.
And our politics affect our socialization as well.
Absolutely. Well, we hope to see you next time. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.